Hi! So this is a bit different for me. I don't think I have been on camera in a video I've done for YouTube since, oh god, since one of my first videos, Great Ziegfeld video, as an after credits thing where I'm in. That was 11 years ago or so. Obviously, it's been a while. I don't usually like being on camera just because it's a lot more work being on camera. You need lights and all that, better audio and all that mumbo jumbo. But I just saw a video, the book haul video. It inspired me. Maybe something new and quick and fun for me to do would be to do a DVD movie related book haul videos every now and then. I don't know how often they would be, but I'm going to give it a shot. Please bear with me. I usually work off a script unless it's a podcast, and even then I'm not on screen, so this is a new thing for me. It's nerve-wracking for me, so hopefully this turns out well. It's going to be a bit of a different experience for me. Basically what I'm going to do is I'm just going to randomly go through some movies I'm going to watch soon, and some movies I picked up recently, and some books I picked up recently and not so recently that I'm interested in getting into. This is an experiment. Let's see how this goes. First up, for a project I wanted to watch the second Johnny Weissmuller Tarzan movie, Tarzan and His Mate. So to do that, I watched his first Tarzan film, Tarzan the Ape Man, I think, and then Tarzan and His Mate, and then I just decided to watch the other 4 of the 6 films he made for MGM. I watched most of those last year, and then I just finished the last one he did for MGM just a few nights ago or so. So I decided, well, he did 6 more for RKO, let's watch those. So recently from the library, I did check out a box set of his 6 RKO films that he did as Tarzan. The first one he did was Tarzan Triumphs, which he did the year right after he did Tarzan's Adventure in New York. I know these are going to be different. This is going to involve Tarzan fighting Nazis instead of like poachers. I know these are going to be lower budget than the MGM fare, but I'm so excited to get into them. And that's kind of one of my current watches in terms of physical media. Recently, I think there was a Criterion Flash sale, and I got some stuff for that. Not tons of stuff, though I did spend more than I probably should have at the time. But I did get a few things coming off of Oppenheimer, Christopher Nolan's latest film that won Best Picture and stuff. But there are 4 films of Christopher Nolan's that I have not watched. There's Insomnia, which he did right before Batman Begins, and then 2 of his later films, Interstellar and Tenet, I haven't seen. And then the 4th one I haven't seen is actually his first feature film, Following. And I'm really excited to dive into this. I know almost nothing about it. I think I've seen 1 picture from it, 1 or 2 pictures from it. I know it's in black and white. I know kind of he shot it for a year, just 1 day a week, when him and his friends had day off from work. So I'm really excited for it. I know it's not in chronological order, like a lot of his films aren't, because I know that The Dark Knight was his first film that was totally in chronological order, so I know this isn't as well. I do love some Christopher Nolan, so I'm hoping to get into this soon, and we'll see how I like it. A film that should be familiar because I like it enough to get it is Wayne's. I'm excited to maybe get into this, especially if I'm showing somebody new this film. That'd be kind of cool. Just experience it on my now much better TV, with surround sound and all that stuff. I'm excited to maybe at some point soon get back into this. I don't know when I'll rewatch it. Probably won't be terribly soon, but it is kind of piqued my interest to get back into this. Another film I got from the recent-ish Criterion Flash sale was a box set of somebody who I've actually seen none of her films, but the Criterion description of it seemed interesting. It is the Chantal Akerman Masterpieces, 1968 to 1978 box set, and I'm sorry for mispronouncing her name. So in the revolutionary first decade of her filmmaking career, Chantal Akerman, again sorry for mispronouncing that, devoted herself to nothing less than the total resculpting of cinematic time and space. Journeying between Europe and New York City, Akerman forged a highly personal style that fuses avant-garde influences with deeply human expressions of alienation, desire, and displacement, themes that she would explore in a series of increasingly ambitious shorts, documentaries, and features, and then with immersive rhythms that render the most minute details momentous, these landmarks of 20th century arts continue to reveal new ways of experiencing cinema and framing reality. That sounds cool, but what really got me interested in getting this box set was one of the short films, I think, is, I forget the exact description of it, but it's her, I think, following various characters through a hotel and you just see kind of glimpses of them and stuff. I think it was described as kind of going through this hotel and exploring loneliness and human condition and something like that. And that to me, I forget if they even used his name, but it sounded very much to me like Edward Hopper and his paintings. And Edward Hopper, the past few years has probably become my favorite painter, and I love him so much. So experiencing something like that in a film-like setting is something I'm really excited to experience. I haven't dived into it yet, but I'm hoping to soon. Another thing I got, and I'm so happy that Criterion released this. Wasn't totally unexpected, but I'm glad they did do it. Was the latest film for one of my favorite directors, Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio. So I did see this in theaters. I have not watched it since. I'm excited to see this. I am sad there's no commentary on it, because I would like to have heard him talk about the film. He hasn't done as many commentaries recently, I'm assuming just because of the DVD market being what it is and stuff. He's talked about how The Shape of Water that was his first film not to have a commentary on it, and he talked about it not really needing one because the behind the scenes stuff dealt with that stuff. He didn't feel the need to do that. That might have been true, but I'm also thinking, since he hasn't done a commentary on Nightmare Alley or his version of Pinocchio either, that it's more of a market thing and not letting him do it. It's just sad. It might not be in the budget. But I'm surprised Criterion wouldn't have let him do it if that is the case, because it's Criterion. So I would have loved to hear him and the other director whose name I'm blanking on, Mark Gustafaz. I'm terribly pronouncing that. And I feel especially bad about it because he did sadly pass away in the past few months, and that's obviously tragic. And I would have loved to hear him talk about the film, before he passed, and having to do it with Del Toro would have been great, and it would have been great to hear him do a joint director commentary. So, but at some point I will dive back into this. It's not my favorite of his films by any means, but it's an interesting, different take on it. He's talked about how his movie isn't so much about Pinocchio becoming a real boy, it's about Geppetto becoming a real father, which I think is interesting and different. Even if I think in some ways maybe the film could be better, I still think that idea and that approach to Pinocchio is fresh and different and new and well worth pursuing. So something I got recently, and it wasn't in a flash sale for Criterion Collection, if people have no idea what the hell I'm talking about. It was for Kino Lorber, and this is for their Kino Classics line. They had a sale recently, Kino did, and something I've been wanting to get, and it was too much on sale for me not to get it this time because I didn't know when it would be that cheap again, was something I'm very much looking forward to getting into, which is Cinema's First Nasty Women. This 4-disc set showcases more than 14 hours of rarely seen silent films about feminist protests, slapstick rebellion, and suggestive gender play. These women organize labor strikes, bake, and weaponize inedible desserts, explode out of chimneys, electrocute the police force, and assume a range of identities that gleefully dismantle traditional gender norms and sexual constraints. This film spans a variety of genres, including slapstick comedy, genteel farce, the trick film, cowboy melodrama, and adventure thriller. Cinema's First Nasty Women includes 99 European and American silent films produced from 1898 to 1926. I also have another thing Kino did, which is Pioneer's First Women Filmmakers, which I have looked at a little bit. But that's basically what it says on the tin. A lot of silent films. I don't know if there's any silent films in here, but a lot of pioneering stuff from a lot of early filmmakers, some of them more known than others. But I've been really interested in exploring lesser known films and exploring films from people that are not like me, so that are different sex than me, or different race, or different from different countries, or whatever. So First Nasty Women box set is something that I am very much looking forward to diving into soonish, hopefully. I haven't got off my butt and done it yet. The first book is a book that I got, about a year ago when I was in Key West, Florida. And I was at a bookstore there, and I got some books. And one of them was film-related, was Billy Connolly's autobiography. I did start reading it, and I got a good ways into it. I think like 114 pages or 15 pages into it. Then I got back home, and I haven't got back into it since. I need to get back into it. I'll probably just kind of start it over again. But it's a nice book. It's Billy Connolly, who I love, and you see his personality come through the book. And I like it so far. Haven't really got to a stand-up part of his story yet, but it's really nice. Love the cover, and I just love Billy Connolly. So it is certainly so far windswept and interesting. And a book that I got forever ago, and I started reading it eventually, and then kind of fell off of it. It's going to be a common theme for a lot of these, is the autobiography of Basil Rathbone in and out of character. This was nice. It doesn't maybe talk about some of the stuff about war as much, his serving in World War I, but it does touch on that, especially early on. And some of that stuff is really nice to see kind of his point of view on that. So he talks about, they want me to go fight these people from this other country, and they're like the big bad guys, but they're really not that different from me, really. And they're probably fighting for a lot of the same causes I am. So he talks about that a little bit, which is nice. And he went through a lot of crap in World War I. He fought in World War I. That was traumatic. Dealt with bombings and trenches and stuff. He lost his brother, fought in the war as well. He lost his brother during that time. His mother died during that time. That really affected his father, which then in turn affected his sister, who was never really the same. He was married before he went to the war. Then I think shortly after he got back, his first wife, he broke up with his first wife. We had kids with him, was this whole thing. So World War I was a big thing for him. I haven't got much past that point, but I'm excited to get into that because I do love me some Basil Rathbone. Last April I went to the Turner Classics Film Festival, and while I was there I did go by a bookstore and I got some books, film-related ones. And one of them, which I'm very excited to get, is Keystone, The Life and Clowns of Mack Sennett. Mack Sennett is a guy who I think is these days, I mean certainly is known to film buffs and stuff, but I think he's been more overshadowed by the people who became more successful leaving his company and out of his company, people like Charlie Chaplin. But I think he certainly does have a place in film history, and I've recently got a box set that Flicker Alley did on his films. It was volume 1. I don't know if they're going to release a volume 2. It was quite a while ago that they released that volume 1. But I've watched some of those films in there, and those are kind of nice. They're very simplistic, and certainly early film, and not everybody's cup of tea, not as sophisticated dramatically in a plot sense and a character sense as Chaplin's films are, and not maybe as clever as his pure comedies could be, but it's still fun. But I'm excited to learn more about Mack Sennett. Another book that I got while I was in LA about a year ago was something I've been wanting to get for a long time, The Lady from the Black Lagoon. And then the subtitle for it is Hollywood Monsters and the Lost Legacy of Millicent Patrick. She designed Creature from the Black Lagoon. She was also, I think, the first female animator for Disney, and she was an interesting person who I think maybe some cases got her due and some cases didn't. It was something that I was thinking that she was owed a biography, and I'm glad somebody wrote one. And then something my very dear sister got me. She has an antique store, so she finds certain oddities and random bits and bobs of stuff. She found for me this old thing, to be continued. It's a complete guide to motion picture serials. I don't know if that's true. I kind of doubt that this is a complete guide to motion picture serials. 231 serials, more than 400 nostalgic photographs. This is more of like a kind of coffee table book and stuff, and I love good coffee table book. I think the only movie serials I've seen are, I've watched the first episode or two of Adventures of Captain Marvel, which I've heard is one of the best movie serials, but I have to get back to it because that was forever ago. And I've seen a Batman serial from 1943. It was the first time on film. That was like a 15-part serial. This is really cool. I love a good coffee table book, so I'm excited to get into this at some point. And finally, speaking of coffee table books, one of the things that helped fire my passion for Sherlock Holmes films and talking about them was this book, starring Sherlock Holmes, which also has a back cover, which you can flip around, with Basil Rathbone. Basil Rathbone, Jeremy Brett. This is by David Stuart Davies, a guy who is probably the authority on Jeremy Brett, who was Sherlock Holmes from 1984 to 1994 on a Granada BBC, I don't know if it's BBC, but a British TV show, often considered one of the best Sherlock Holmes ever. And David Stuart Davies was around during that production of that, and really got to talk to all the people involved in that. So he's really, I think, probably the authority on that show. He also went through all or most or all the ones he could get at that time of the Sherlock Holmes movies and TV shows and stuff, and talks about them and reviews them. Again, this is a coffee table book, so he just talks about some the different movies and TV shows, not all of them, but a lot of them. And it goes up to, his original edition went up to from 1901 to then present time, 2002. And then he updated it in 2007, sadly right before the Sherlock Holmes boom. So he doesn't have any Robert Downey Jr., no Benedict Cumberbatch in it, not Mr. Holmes with Ian McKellen. So I once asked him on Twitter to please do an update on it, and he said talk to my publishers. So I think it's something he would like to do an update on it, but his publishers are not saying yes at this moment. I hope he does eventually, because I'll buy it. But this is a nice coffee table book. I love it. It's nice to just go through it. And sometimes he'll stop and talk about various certain subjects, like Jeremy Brett in particular, or radio Sherlocks or whatever. So he's not just talking about films, he talk about let's stop and talk about silent films. Let's stop and talk about this character of Sherlock Holmes. Stop and talk about this aspect of Sherlock Holmes or whatever. So that's fun. And I haven't actually read it from beginning to end, but I've flipped through it many times and just read certain sections of it. Usually stuff that I won't see for a while or have already watched, but it does go to 1901 to 2017. Again, I love a good coffee table book. So definitely, if you can get this, I don't know how available it still is, if it's still available online, if it's still in print, but if you can get it, and especially if it's still for a good price, I would recommend doing so. It is very good. I hope this was relatively painless. Again, this is an experiment. If you guys like it, let me know in comments and junk and likes and subscribe and all that mumbo jumbo. And if I enjoy the final product of this when I edit it, I will do more of these. This was fun. It was easier than I thought it would be. But hope you like this video, and I will see you next time. Bye!